the 8-year-old me and the 80-year-old me will never be too far apart, because the 8-year-old me is a kid that came into this world as a product of a rape. My mother was raped at 11, had me at the age of 12, told I'd be dead or in jail by the time I was 16, headed down that path, exposed to so many negative aspects of life, whether it was drugs or violence or crime, etc., abuse, and got exposed to a different part of life by going to the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch. And that's where I believe that God literally...
At what age was that?
I was 12 years old.
Okay.
12 years old. So I left my mom's house at 12 years old from Boynton Beach, Florida, went up to Live Oak, Florida, and I went from smelling train smoke and car smoke in the morning to horse manure and hay, etc. And it was a culture shock for me. And I was never exposed to horses and cows and etc. And I was only one of 3 black kids on the entire campus of 120 boys.
Wow.
With 1 black staff member. Being able to be on this episode of The Blessed Code and talking about exposure, I understand that based on how my life has gone, that exposure leads to expansion. And the right exposure leads to expansion. And I was exposed to some really good people that some of them didn't think that I was going to make it through at the Boys Ranch, because I was fighting all the time and getting ready to get kicked off the Boys Ranch.
So this one you was labeled as the bad boy.
The bad kid, yeah. And
now why were you labeled that? What were you doing right at that time that enabled those actions? Was it anger?
Yeah, definitely anger. I never got into drugs or alcohol or anything like that. I was just an angry kid that didn't care much about authority, didn't care much about... I didn't feel like I had much to care about, simply because everybody's telling me what you can't do, and then you're exposed to all these different people that aren't essentially doing anything either. And it's like you're in the projects, there's a dead end. You being from Chicago, probably similar mindsets of people in those neighborhoods. And you have to figure out how to sink or swim. And in most cases, you figure out the wrong way because you're around so many wrong influences. I wanted to be the cool kid. I didn't want to be bullied. I wore really thick glasses. My nickname was Eyes and Coke bottles and everything else in between. And so I believe that when I finally started realizing that I did not ever want to be like the people around me, God literally lifted me up from Boynton Beach, Florida, and put me in Live Oak, Florida. And it was there that I learned how to work. It was there that I learned how to treat people with dignity. It was there that I learned how to give people second chances or a first chance with strangers. You know, a lot of times we go into certain situations like, hey, I don't know if I want to really rock with them people there. They wearing this color, or you know what I mean? It's just like, so I've had the fortunate opportunity to be exposed to a lot of really good people.
As I listen to you articulate yourself and share briefly of your story, there are so many shared commonalities around that throughout this nation, throughout many urban areas, Chicago in particular. And that really speaks to a saying that I often say. See, my brothers, your current situation does not determine your final destination. No matter where you are today, that doesn't dictate your tomorrow. You do. And as Brother Thaddeus just articulated himself, even in the midst of his childhood trauma, the anger, the thoughts he may have had, God was there. He was there. And God was not going to put anything on his brother that he couldn't bear. And so I just want to encourage you as you continue to listen into this conversation that where you are today does not determine your tomorrow. And I cannot stress that enough, because oftentimes we stay in our yesterday. Oftentimes, we continue to stay in our past. And for us, it's about how do we move forward. There are many who may doubt us. There are many who may label us the bad guy, as Thaddeus articulated. If God be for you, then what shall be against you? So what's interesting, Thaddeus, is that on a recent episode, we had a gentleman that stated that labels kills confidence. You were labeled the bad guy. You were labeled the angry kid. But somehow, some way, you were able to channel what they had spoke over you and were able to ultimately create this character that has impacted many around the world. How did that happen?
Well, the labels were true. I was a very angry kid, and if I look back and think about some of the things that I did and said, I would have labeled myself that and some more. But when you know, whoever that guest was when they were talking about labels, I'm sure, like, there are labels on everything. Sometimes people don't read them. There are labels on everything that you eat. There are labels on everything that you drink. But because I like this, or I really have a craving for that, I don't care about the labels. This is what I want to eat.
Right.
That's how God is. God doesn't care what people say. He doesn't care what people put against you. He cares about what he made you to be. And we're all images made in him. So my confidence doesn't come from what I've accomplished. It doesn't come from what I've achieved. It doesn't come from what I have or what I wear. It really does come with the fact that I knew that at one point in my life, I was very insignificant to a lot of people. And I wanted to be successful. And I achieved that. First person in my family to graduate from high school, first person in my family to graduate from college, the University of Florida, played football there, won a national championship there, was a vice president of student government, which is why I hate politics to this day. When I think about the shift in my life and why I can live free as I do today, debt-free, worry-free, stress-free, it is a great freedom to have knowing that I'm God's child. And I'm not called, I'm chosen.